Guys, Jackie, Emma, how you doing? Final day. Okay, this is day 30 of my 30-day, 30 Malaysian cooking tips challenge. And this is part of the Go Live challenge run by Paul Gray at Attract, Convert, Grow. And today we are talking about Popiah skin, okay? This is one of those holy grail things, again, with Malaysian cooks everywhere. So Popiah skin, what it is, it's basically Popiah, for those who don't know, is Malaysian spring roll. And look, in all honesty, people, when they think of Popiah, especially among the Chinese, they think of the fresh spring roll that's wrapped, that's filled with like a yam bean, or what we call sakot or sengguang filling, right? And the sengguang is cooked up with dried shrimp, and then it's like the skin is smeared, depending on which part of Malaysia you're from, with a sweet hoisin type sauce or with a stronger shrimp paste based sauce, and sometimes it's served with a little bit of like with some of the sauce from the sakot on it, and all kinds of different iterations, but generally it's seen as a fresh spring roll. It's different to the Vietnamese spring roll that people here in Australia are familiar with. And by the way, do say hello and let me know where you're watching from, and do a hashtag live if you're watching it live, and hashtag replay if you're watching a replay, okay? Don't forget to share this out as well, and that will help me to be able to create more content like this in future. But yeah, so Popiah, like I said, fresh spring roll, but technically it can also refer to fried spring roll, okay? It's just kind of like an all-encompassing term to refer to spring rolls. But again, most Malaysians, when they think of Popiah, they think of the fresh variety. And I remember when I used to make it for my restaurants, I didn't always have time to make the spring roll skin because it's really time consuming. People forget in Malaysia, when you go to a hawker stall, they only specialize in the one or two things, okay? At my restaurant, I had to do like, a whole restaurant menu, and I had to do it all because my staff generally did not have the skills to do what I did, right? So all the tricky stuff I had to do. They can do the more basic stuff, but yeah, the tricky stuff I had to do, like Popiah skin. So I would only do it occasionally. I remember the one time that the Sydney Morning Herald used to do this particular feature called Three of a Kind, and what they would do is they would like go incognito to 3 different restaurants to try the same dish at each place, and then write a review to compare and contrast them, okay? But because I was only doing my Popiah hey Juan, how are you? Because I was only doing my Popiah when I had time to do it, I would just throw it up on the blackboard when it's available. So it wasn't a regular special per se. It really depended on how much time I had. So unfortunately for the Sydney Morning Herald, they had to really break their own rules and actually call ahead to find out when I was making Popiah next, okay? They weren't supposed to let me know that they were showing up. But nonetheless, it was all good. They showed up and they tried my Popiah, and they gave me really, really like raving reviews about it, because at that time, mine of the 3 restaurants they visited was the only one that used homemade Popiah skin, okay? One of them used the, as is typical with a lot of overseas Malaysians and even overseas Malaysian restaurants, they use frozen spring roll skin that you buy in a packet. The other one actually not just used a frozen spring roll skin, but they deep fried it. So they basically, like I said, people, when they order Popiah, they expect like that fresh spring roll. But this particular journalist, when she ordered Popiah, she got fried spring rolls, and she was a little bit mad about it, okay? So compared to the other 2 options, mine came out the best. But so Popiah skin, how do you make it? And I know, like I said, it's one of those things like people struggle with, okay? So essentially all it is just plain flour. My particular recipe has a little bit of tapioca starch in it as well. Tapioca starch helps to make it more... tapioca starch is softer, right? And plain flour can be a little bit more robust, but most recipes you'll find actually just calls for plain flour. But I just put a little bit of tapioca starch in it. You don't have to, okay? So you can play around with the recipe. And then the idea is for you to actually really work the gluten, okay? As with a lot of, just like with the roti canai session I did yesterday, is about how the gluten develops in the dough for it to be starchy, okay? But with this, you don't just turn it starchy, you turn it like completely like a really like a rubbery ball, okay? So I've got a I've done a number of sessions on this in the past. I won't go into the details, but the tricky thing with making popiah isn't so much the dough itself, because you can figure it out from the recipe. The tricky thing is actually cooking it. Okay, so how do you cook popiah skin? And essentially what it is that you get the dough in your hand, and I used to actually just like flip it around, and you can really almost just bounce it off your hand. It will just kind of like, stretch and bounce back, right? Like a really rubbery textured ball. And the problem that most people find with popiah skin is that you have to cook it at a particular temperature range. Okay, if it's not hot enough, basically you want to actually smear a pan, right, with the dough, and then lift it up without having what's on the pan like stick onto the rest of your dough with it. If you think of like something like no, that's a bad example. I won't use. I was going to say blue tack. How sometimes if you try and remove blue tack, you stick more blue tack on it and pull it up. Okay, so the popiah like dough can be like that. Okay, if the pan is too cold, the dough won't smear. Okay, so you can smear the pan and nothing will happen. If it's too hot, when you smear it, right, as you try and like smear the pan with a thin layer of the dough itself will stick back up with and it will be cooked. Okay, it will be too hot, it will be cooked immediately, and it will like be stuck onto the surface of that lump of dough that you have, and it will basically ruin it. So you have to kind of like break it off, sort of thing. Okay, so that's the tricky thing. So how do you overcome it? So what I did in my years of, like I said, for those of you who don't know, I specialize in street food, in hawker food. Okay, so I've spent my whole career just specializing in street food. So when I started out, I had to learn all this by myself without any recipes and all that. Hey, Paul. So that's basically what I did. I hacked how to do it properly. Okay, now in Malaysia with popiah skin, that you will typically find them cook it on a cast iron griddle. Okay, and my friend David Chow over in Melbourne, he actually, in his early days, hey Annie, he actually like wanted to learn how to make popiah skin, and he came across one of my really old videos. It's one of my first videos on YouTube where I basically hacked how to do it. And but anyway, David's moved on from that now, but he does use a cast iron pan, okay, to do his popiah skin. I have a cast iron pan, and I probably should pull it out and try it again, but it didn't really work for me. But the trick, according to David, is to season your cast iron pan with oil, right? And then like keep it seasoned like that, and then that will work. My problem with the cast iron pan is that when I stretched it on, like one or two times I tried it, was that it didn't stick properly. Okay, but hey, Bernard, but the thing about the popiah dough, to get it stick, all right, you have to find the right surface for it to work with. Okay, like I said, cast iron pan, a well-seasoned cast iron pan is usually your best bet. Okay, but the thing about a cast iron pan is that it retains a lot of heat. Okay, and that's the other thing. The important thing about making popiah skin is to keep it within a particular temperature range. Okay, if it's remember I said if it's too cold, it doesn't work. If it's too hot, it doesn't work. So what is the temperature range, and how do you figure it out? Okay, that's what I had to hack, first of all, and second of all, I had to hack what kind of surface will work for it. Okay, so first of all, about the surface, like I said, cast iron pan that's seasoned with oil. You heat it up, but then you want to like turn it off, because you don't want to keep heating it, because it will keep getting hotter and hotter, and you just can't, and it takes a long time for a cast iron pan to come back down in the temperature. Hey Palish, how are you? So what I figured back in the day, like I said, when I was making popiah skin, like I don't know, 15 years ago, I used to use a particular IKEA pan. Okay, but I use a non-stick pan. That's the bottom line. But it's not just any non-stick pan. Okay, your pan has to have enough weight in it so that when you lift up the dough, okay, you smear the dough. When you lift it up, the pan doesn't kind of like come along with it. Okay, because you want like a heavy base pan, essentially, not those cheaper ones that you see on supermarket shelves that are just coated non-stick. Those won't work. Okay, so I used to use an IKEA pan. That's dead and gone now. Okay, but generally, but now this is what I use. Okay, this is like a scan pan. So you see it's heavy. Okay, and it's non-stick. Okay, but it's matte. It's not like the glossy non-stick. You don't want something that's too smooth, because they won't stick. Okay, so you want to be able to smear it and pull it off. smear it, and pull it off. Okay. And then what I used to do is I figured out the temperature range I needed for it to be. It had to be between 95 degrees and 105 degrees. Okay. Interestingly, David Chia in Melbourne, when he makes it in his cast iron pan, he has it higher. He has it like 119 degrees. So maybe depending on the surface that you're working with, you will need a different temperature point. Okay. But the point being that like it has to be like set in that particular environment. Otherwise, it won't work. So the way I control the temperature or figure out what the temperature is I use a laser thermometer. Okay, so you can buy a laser thermometer cheaply on eBay or AliExpress or something like that, like 12 bucks, I think you can get one. And I just point it at the pan. Okay, so like when I used to make it in my restaurant, I have like 3 of these going. Okay, and that's the other reason why I didn't really make it that often, because I needed like my whole stove instead of like, you know, being able to cook other stuff on it. I needed a whole stove free because I needed 3 of these pans going. This will be heating up. I'll point the laser thermometer on it, got up to 95, 99 degrees, turn off the heat, smear it. While it's cooking the first one, do the next one, move it aside, pull it off, and then I needed to let it come back down to temperature. Okay, do the next one because while it's cooking, you have to actually keep cooking it, like, you know, obviously at 95, 99 degrees. Okay, you smeared it, you still have to keep it cooking, so it's going to keep getting hotter and hotter. Okay, so you put that aside, pull out the next pan, do it, get it up to 95 to 105 degrees, smear it, and then do the next one. And then by the time you come back to the first one, you've turned off the heat and it's cooled back down to like under 105 degrees, then you can smear it again, and you just keep doing it. Okay. Yeah, the tricky thing is to bring it back down to temperature. When I learned how to do it, what they used to do was, you know, they didn't have like laser thermometers back in the day. Like I said, this is a modern day hack, right? What they used to do was they used to actually use like a paper towel, like dipped in water, and they'll just kind of like, just like run the paper towel around the perimeter of this to hear the sizzle, okay? And also helps to bring down the temperature. So sometimes when it wasn't coming down, you know, cooling down fast enough, I would do that. I would get like a paper towel, like dipped in cold water, and just kind of like smear it to bring it back down to below 105 degrees before you can get it working, okay? Like I say, it has to be heavy, like this one here. You can imagine if it's like some light, cheap thing, when you smear it, you know, and pull it out, it doesn't work, okay? And it has to be like something that can like grip the dough, okay, sort of thing. So it can't be too smooth, it can't be oiled or anything like that. Yeah, you gotta juggle it. So, but obviously in Malaysia, the hawker stalls there, they'll do it different. You know, they've got like a big giant like cast iron pan. Like I said, the cast iron pan, it will hold the heat for a long time. Okay, so maybe the trick is to like get it up to that temperature and then turn it off completely, and then just keep going. But whatever it is that you experiment, remember, keep it within a particular temperature range. Like, you know, for me it was between 95 and 105 degrees. Might be different for you depending on the environment you cook in, and always make sure you stay within that temperature range. Okay, insofar as making the dough, you want to get it really stretchy. Okay, and you can do it by hand. David does it by hand. It requires you to basically just mix it for like 10 minutes. Okay, you got to actually, what I do, okay, I'll just quickly go through what I do. I mix the flours, a little bit of salt, add water, mix it into like a really rough batter, okay, and then I let it rest. Okay, and the way I let it rest is I pour cold water over the surface of the batter, cover it, and then keep it in the cool room overnight, or for like, you know, for 8 hours. Then I tip out the water, okay, and then the dough, I stick in the dough mixer and mix it on really the slowest setting, and keep working using a K-whisk, not, you know, not the dough whisk, but the K-whisk, I think, yeah. And then working it really slow. It's a really soft, rubbery, like it's not like a tough like bread dough. It's really soft. Okay, you work it and you work it and you work it, and just when you think, oh, this isn't happening, nothing's happening, it will start to come together. Okay, so you work it, and then it turns into like a rubbery, really soft, rubbery ball, and you can tell it's ready when you lift up your dough mixer hook, and it you know, the whole thing lifts up with it. Okay, so that's when you know it's done. And like I said, it's going to be really soft and really rubbery. Okay, don't overwork it though, because I have done that a couple of times, but it's so incredibly tense that I can't smear it. Okay, but yeah, if you're doing it by hand, you're going to give your arm a good workout. All right, so those are my tips for making Popiah skin. Give it a shot and let me know how it turns out. And there are, like, you know, if you go to walkaroundasia.com, I have a special offer for my cooking course launch, and a couple of you have signed up, so thank you. And it's only got a few hours left. Okay, so if you don't want to miss out, there's a never to be repeated launch offer on at the moment. Go to walkaroundasia.com and you know where to find it. And I will see you on the other side. All right, guys, like I said, this wraps up the 30-day challenge, and I will go live again sometime this week. And I want to show you something else. It was something that was sent out to me, which is a mooncake kit, okay, by Jim's Malaysia. They sent it out to me, and I just want to show it to you guys. I haven't actually played around with it. So if you want to make your own mooncake kits, you want to make your own mooncakes at home, there's the kit that you might want to check out. It's not the baked mooncake, but it's the mochi variety, okay? But it's kind of cute. But yeah, tune in and I'll watch out for the announcements on my timeline anyway. All right, I'll see you next time. And thanks for sticking around, those of you who've been tuning in every day. Thanks, Bernard. Thanks, Annie. Thanks, yeah, everyone else, Juan and Paul and everybody. I'll see you later. Ciao.